the car I've got now, the Mustang Mach-E, least efficient EV on the market. At the moment, I'm getting about 2 litres per 100 kilometres in comparable energy expenditure.
Welcome to Ascend Your Story, where we talk to people in science, tech and research from the Ascent Media studio in the sunniest place on earth, Sunshine, in Melbourne's west on the lands of the Wurundjeri people. I'm Sam O'Reilly, the director at Ascent Media, and after decades of filming, building radio studios and recording podcasts for others, it's super exciting to be here to bring the show to you. We have met many scientists, researchers and technologists on our shoots over the years who are doing amazing work that is being unheard. So we decided to create this podcast to help get their stories out there. We've talked about EVs before on this show, but not so much about how fast they can go and how they can convert a rev head into an electric vehicle enthusiast. Today's guest actually did an internship 14 years ago with this company when it was known as Samurai AV. He was only a few years out of high school, driving around in his very loud Commodore. He was working for a commercial cleaning company and dipping his toes in the world of audiovisual and film and TV with our business as an editor and videographer. Since then, I've watched him transition from media production into the world of electronics, studied to be an electrical engineer where he worked on the RMIT University electric racing team, which then landed him a job at Ford Australia, where he now works as an electrical systems engineer. Rhys Clarke, welcome to Ascend Your Story.
Thanks for having me.
So, Rhys, what drew you into electrical systems engineering?
So basically, I read the synopsis one day. My cousin actually came back from a holiday and he said, look, I'm looking at this course. Have a bit of a read, see what you think. And I said, I need to do that right now.
That's awesome. So you've come from a family of rev heads.
Yeah, definitely.
How did you transition into the world of EVs?
Well, I mean, it's a long journey, right? I went through university, learned all about how engineering is and was. But the real turning point was obviously working on the race team with some of the best people in the world making race cars. Unfortunately for me at the time, that car was electric. But from the very first time that they turned it on for me and kind of revved that little electric motor, I was an instant convert, and it's just been growing ever since. It's something I never expected.
Were you more of a performance person or just fascinated about how things worked?
Always fascinated about how things work, pulling apart TVs as a kid, building computers, all that sort of stuff. That's why uni took to me, I guess.
Yeah, right. And what was your dream car growing up?
Dream car, still probably the same, the 1969 GTO, otherwise known as the Judge.
The Judge, okay.
Big V8, 2-door, wide, long American muscle car.
Okay, that's a big step from a big muscle car to EVs.
Yeah, I mean, I still want to have that car, but
would you like to convert it?
No, definitely not. No. So another big thing for me is EVs are affordable, right? So if I have an EV now, I can have that V8 later.
So you now work for Ford, but I know you and your family come from a long line of Holden enthusiasts. How does that work?
Definitely, it's been an odd transition. I could say we've been welcomed with open arms by the Ford family, and that helps a lot. We've still got a lot of Commodores and Holdens on the property, but we've got a few Fords now, so yeah, things are changing.
And what are you driving now?
At the moment, I've got a Mustang Mach-E. I'm very lucky to have an EV at the moment.
Awesome. Pretty fast, I'd say.
Unbelievably fast. I would say it's too fast.
You're right.
Yep.
But is street legal?
Street legal, totally, yeah.
How would it compare to a ICE? Now, I'll just start by saying EVs, electric vehicles. We should probably get that.
Get that out of the way.
Get that out of the way. If we're talking about EVs, we're talking about electric vehicles, and ICE is
internal combustion engine.
There we go.
Beautiful.
All right. So if we're talking about ICEs, internal combustion engine. I've forgotten what I was saying.
How does it compare?
Yeah, how does it compare?
Let's just say I saw a Lamborghini in the street the other day, and for the first time in my life, I thought, I could probably take that.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So it would overpower an actual Mustang.
In the streets, I would be very confident racing a Lamborghini. On the track, probably not so much. There's a bit of a weight difference, and EVs kind of run out of wind at the high end of the speed range. But yeah, just pumping around town, that's definitely not something I could have said in my Commodore.
And then find a street with some speed humps.
Yeah.
Now, how has your views on EVs changed over time?
I mean, I guess from the beginning, EVs were just uninteresting, right? You know, of course, I built the race car and drove the race car and realized that you can get power out of something that's not exciting, you know, in a noise range. So I've gone from completely uninterest, really, to realizing the potential that we have. You know, we can have as much fun as we do with our ICE cars, but we can do it on the cheap and reliably too.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about your time on the RMIT race team.
Best and worst, you know, 4 years of my life. 3 years. So I began as kind of a mechanic, driver, electrical engineer, and the very next year I became the chief of the electrical team, which is an incredibly stressful job. But we got through it. We had plenty of hiccups. We didn't quite finish race day that we expected to, the way we expected to. But yeah, learned a lot and cannot forget about driving that car most of all. Best memories.
And are they building it from scratch each year, or they keep the frame at least?
Pretty much. Most years they build it from scratch. So in recent times, I guess back when they started, they would have recycled some things, but the rules kind of stipulate that you need to rebuild essentially from scratch if you want like full points.
And what do they do with the old car if they're not recycling parts?
They get recycled in different ways. So some
they don't keep them, and no one gets to take them home.
No, well, that has happened. I've seen a couple jump up on Marketplace. They're either going, you know, hanging off the wall at uni, or they're getting converted into driverless cars, which is really interesting.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I was in San Fran last year and got to witness the driverless.
You jump in a Waymo?
I did not get in one. We had a child with us, and we're like, I just couldn't do that.
Just an extra leap.
Well, just the fact of no kid seat in there, but I would have loved to have done it just once, just to feel the awkwardness.
Yeah.
Now, how do EVs compare emotionally to ICE cars for you?
So this is my sticking point. This is the part where I kind of bring into conversation a lot, especially at work. What we've made are EVs, right? But they're still pretty boring. Like all we seem to know how to do is make them fast, which is just a side effect of having an EV. They're just fast. They're easy to get quick. But what we really need to be doing, and what surprised me the most in the industry, is our friends in Korea. You know, Hyundai making sports cars, real sports cars out of EVs. They've got simulated shifting. They've got pretend rev noises, you know, all of that stuff that me as a rev head goes, you know, I just want to go and be sick in the toilet now. But I really get it. You know, if you can have an EV that's reliable and powerful, why not pretend it's something that you want to be driving as a daily driver, especially, right? I still got, you know, I want to have my V8 in the garage, but if I can flip through paddle shifts, you know, at the lights, and why not? And that's something that electric allows you to have, you know. There's a lot of flexibility.
But most electric vehicles don't have gearbox, do they? Or they don't have gear shift?
No, not at the moment, but they will one day. But again, electric's so smooth and so simple that it's not as emotional, it's not as difficult. That's the fun part about ICE cars, right? They're difficult.
What's something you now love working on in EVs that would have excited you in an ICE car?
It's totally different, to be honest. You know, I used to love the noise of engines revving up. I still do, obviously. And electric vehicles are so much more like Lego. You just plug them together and off they go. So from an engineering perspective, there's not much to be excited about other than, you know, specifics, which I wouldn't have cared about back then.
Not having to wash your overalls for all the grease off.
Yeah, well, that's a fun memory, right? My hands smelling of grease, sticky, greasy hands is something of the past now, which is a
Now it
little
just
bit
smells like copper
disappointing.
wire, yeah. and lithium.
Yeah, lithium
You'd
juice.
hope not.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
Are there skills or lessons from working on ice systems that have helped you in your EV work?
Yeah, definitely. How difficult it is. Something that surprises me now, I'd probably be pretty confident rebuilding a battery pack, right? That's something a lot of people are scared about. I've tried to rebuild engines in the past, and it still just puts me off. There's too much in it that I'm worried about. I guess that's been in engineering, trying to get it right the first time. But a battery pack is a lot simpler than an engine.
Yeah, right. Yeah, okay. Now, while we're talking about the engine, the motor part, can you give us a brief explanation of how an EV, what the components of an EV?
Yeah, of course. So essentially all you need is a battery and a motor, right? Anyone in the audience who's, familiar with slot cars, even RC cars, right? You've got your battery, you've got your motor, you connect those two together and all you need is a control system after that. So modern vehicles, we've all got drive-by-wire. Your accelerator's not actually connected to your engine anymore like it used to be. So the transition is pretty simple. Power that motor and rely on the human to give it commands, and that's about it.
Amazing. What's the state of electric cars right now? Like where are we at?
That's a good question. It's my favorite thing to think about right now. I like to think of it, especially in the industry, as like iPhone coming out, right? It's a little bit longer and it's a little bit different for us, but it's world changing and it's happening, and there's a lot to be excited about. And trying to convince people in the industry that there's a lot to be excited about is the hard part. I like to imagine, especially I work on Ranger, right? So the day that we have camper vans with batteries in them and big solar panels on them, and suddenly they're able to traverse the entire of Australia without seeing a gas station and without even seeing a charging station if you engineer it right. True mobile homes, basically, from a personal industry perspective.
Yeah, that would be nice. Now, we talk about the fuel efficiency of combustion engines as liters per 100 kilometers. How does that translate to EV cars?
Again, one of my favorite topics. Something we probably don't talk about enough. The way I like to explain it at work is like we should be up on the roof yelling to the public, we've finally done it. We've finally made a car that's 1 liter per 100 kilometers.
That's amazing.
That's what we've been searching for, right? We want fuel efficiency. The car I've got now, the Mustang Mach-E, least efficient EV on the market. At the moment, I'm getting about 2 liters per 100 kilometers in comparable energy expenditure. So
that would have excited somebody 20 years ago with the cost of fuel.
Unbelievably. Yeah.
And with the cost of fuel now, that's amazing.
It's still wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what I refuse to do the sums of my efficiency of my diesel van.
Yeah, exactly. The closest we've come as humanity to getting that liter per 100 is a Vespa scooter from 2008.
Wow.
So I'm driving around, foot to the floor, tires squealing, and I'm getting pretty much the same gas mileage as a Vespa from 2008.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So with that in mind, how would you describe? How would you try to change the mindset of somebody that's on the fence with going from the petrol guzzler muscle car to an EV?
It's incredibly hard because the choice is so obvious to me. I suppose there's still a lot of infrastructure issues. Even just getting a charger in your house that's something that you really do require to have an EV. Going out and charging in the market like you would fill up a petrol car is just not comparable. You got to be charging from home. You got to have a full tank every day, which is also an added benefit, might I add. So basically, it comes down to cost for people, which is coming down. Secondhand cars are starting to become cheap, and then it's just about getting an EV charger, which can be an expensive, prospect for someone and a horrible prospect for someone renting. So it really comes down to the
Or street
person
parking.
wanting it. Street parking, of course, yeah. So Melbourne's rolling out heaps of street chargers. Businesses are rolling out some street chargers. There's been some incentives, but even still, if you're not charging at home, it's a difficult prospect. Having said that, I've got a 98 kilowatt hour battery in the car that I've got now that takes 3.5 days to charge off your regular 240 volt outlet.
Okay.
But that hasn't been a problem for me so far. So I've had it nearly 6 months now.
Are you topping up each day?
Not even. I charge on the weekends, so I don't drive typically between Sunday and Tuesday morning. So I'll plug it in then, and I haven't got a empty tank, so to speak. So it just tops itself off, and I'm ready for the rest of the week.
That's pretty cool. What's got you excited for the future?
Just working on them. I feel like I'm a little bit too early to the game, but I'm also at a pivotal point where I can change minds and kind of design the future. So I'm in the right place to be. I'm excited to build the future.
Yeah. What challenges are out there, do you think?
Mainly mindset. There's a fortunate amount of people in my industry that are just kind of got the blinders on. They're not interested. They see either the media or their own opinions as gold and as fact, and they're not open-minded about transitioning to something else, which is interesting. Is really quite interesting. I guess being a rev head, especially, I had a Ranger before, right? Beautiful car, but I did not care for the powertrain whatsoever. I love V8s. There's a certain few 6 cylinders and a couple of 4 cylinders that I might appreciate, but by and large, every other powertrain is just a power unit, right? So why can't it be electric?
There's a Ranger FEV now, isn't there?
There is. So, yeah. So that's my...
Can you explain what FEV is?
FEV. So there's 2 different types. So FHEV or FEV is for full hybrid electric. And the one we've just released is a PHEV, which you could also call a FEV. But that's why we call it PHEV. So that's plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. So that means it's got a battery big enough that you want to plug into your wall and charge.
And are they... Yeah, how are they comparing to the ICE?
I had one for a few days. Absolutely loved it. It was kind of an awesome in-between for a rev head like myself, because you get all the great bonuses of electric vehicle, but then that little 4-banger in the front also kicks up and screams when you really want the power. Which is cool for a rev hev, but overall, and the industry really wouldn't want me to say this, but you also get all the drawbacks, right? So you're over-exercising a small battery. You've got heaps of your ICE components that are still as unreliable as any other ICE vehicle. And when I say unreliable, I mean compared to an EV, right? EVs will last 20 years, without taking a breath, whereas your ICE components wear out because they're a machine with 1,000 moving parts. So, yeah.
Everything needs to be greased.
PHEV's on hold.
Okay.
Great for a Ranger, as a work vehicle, but there's a lot of other hybrids coming to the market.
So, who's been a cheerleader for you? Who's helped you along the way?
Let me think. Other than the race team was obviously a huge boost in my life. Lots of young blokes acting with confidence, right? I was the eldest of the bunch, coming into uni late after a few gap years doing cleaning, as you mentioned. So yeah, seeing all these young blokes building a race car without hardly any help, it was just so inspiring. And I guess I've taken that energy with me into the industry. It's something that's driven me.
Great. So you had the electric race team to help you transition from petrol to lithium.
Yeah.
What do you think would be a good gateway vehicle for someone the everyday person to move into electric.
Yeah. Pardon the pun on vehicle, right? Look, there's a lot of new and interesting things happening in the space, right? I went to a all-electric hill climb last year. So that's a racing event just for EVs. First of its kind in Australia, other than the Formula Student, right? And it was something to behold. That's still kind of a rev head thing. Rev hev. There we go again. But yeah, it was really something to see. A regular Joe taking his everyday car and racing it up a hill. For the general public, I think it's just test drives. You go out and try it and find out that your regular car is actually not as efficient and easy to drive as an electric vehicle, and have a long, hard think about how far you need to go and whether you need to charge quickly or whether you can charge over a few days, and just give it a shot. If you've got a second car that's an ICE vehicle, give it in. Nissan Leafs, secondhand, pretty cheap, great runabout cars. It's just, I think once somebody has an EV or has driven an EV for a few days, borrow your friends. I've heard a lot of that lately. Once you jump in it and experience it, the experience is profoundly life-changing.
Mm. And you get to program all the coloured lights in there.
Oh, yeah, if you like.
The Hyundai, is it the Ioniq?
Yeah. A lot of those cars have every feature thrown into them.
Yeah, whatever colours you want.
Yeah.
A bit of RGB LED. So, Rhys, tell me about how's the technology changing?
Technology is really good to look at, right? I'm sure many people have had an old battery drill, right? That one of the first ones that came out, and you let those things run out of energy and the battery's gone, right? I think that's how a lot of people remember batteries, even now. That was nickel metal hydride batteries. Okay, so that was the old technology, if you will. Believe it or not, there was a Ranger built with nickel metal hydride batteries for fleet vehicles in the US, which were all recalled after about a year because their batteries are failing. So today, that's common knowledge and expected. We don't build batteries that are nickel metal hydride anymore. What we got now is lithium ion and many, many variants of those. And what you'll see is, I've got drills for my batteries for my drill that are 6+ years old. And the story is compounded again for a vehicle because you've got such a huge battery. It's barely being used, so it's not getting damaged like your power drill does, because they're built for cost compared to longevity. Technology has come a long way, and it's very very viable in a vehicle context compared to what we used to have.
What's the next technology, do you think?
The next technology is immeasurable right now. There's a lot of talk of sodium batteries. So, that's filling your car with salt. How cheap is that going to be? There's different drawbacks for each one. A sodium battery is going to be just as heavy as the one you've got now, but it's going to be cheaper to make. There's a lot of talk coming from all across the industry about solid-state batteries. So currently batteries are made with a electrolyte that's quite heavy, and it's essentially a liquid. Your battery's filled with a liquid. So we're talking about removing that liquid, which halves your weight, allows you to add more capacity. So that battery is going to be 2 times better than what we have now and 10 times more reliable. Unfortunately, there's nothing really to play with out in the industry. So at the moment, it's all smoke and mirrors and scientists saying what they can and can't do. So there's a lot to be excited about, but we're not sure when we're going to get it.
Do you know much about hydrogen cars?
Hydrogen cars are one of my favorite topics at work because everyone goes, what about hydrogen? Hydrogen's this awesome gas that we can make use of, right? And what I tell them is a hydrogen car is just a hybrid electric vehicle, which is the truth. You look at the Toyota Mirai, right? It doesn't burn hydrogen, which would be exciting to me. We can make V8s with hydrogen burning engines, which would be pretty cool. Not efficient, but pretty cool. And when you look at hydrogen cars, they've got a big tank of hydrogen, which then converts to electricity, which goes to a battery, which powers your EV. So essentially, you are adding to your part count, you're adding to your unreliability to use a fuel again. So we're skipping the middleman here. We're going straight to EVs, I think.
So the best way forward is straight to EV. Renewables, how are we using those to power our cars?
Renewables are awesome for the everyman, right? So I'm a bit biased here because I've just loaded my roof with solar. But that should be able to fill my vehicle, which is kind of a funny equation to work out, especially as an engineer, right? So my fuel bill has gone from, say, $300 a month with petrol down to about $30, $40 a month with electric. And I've loaded my roof with solar panels at great expense to make that $30 a month go to zero. So it's a bit of an awkward conversation, but when you really think about it, we're talking about free transportation, which is unbelievable to someone like me with a growing family, right? We can go anywhere on the weekend for free.
That's pretty crazy. Like, considering how much we're transporting oil via sea.
Exactly, yeah.
And once we go to renewables, then that all goes. And think about how clean the world will be without all those ships and how much diesel's being burnt to move those ships. Like it's just compounding. We take it straight from the sun to the vehicle.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
It's
right?
unbelievable. Now, what's a big myth that needs to be busted about EVs?
There's a lot. I feel like journos are doing everyone a disservice by writing the sort of clickbait that they do. There's a lot of information to be found about how bad EVs can be, but I think that's a small percentage. The biggest thing that the general public or people that I run into don't know is how damn good they are to drive. As well as like the features that you get from it, like you can use some cars as a battery for your house, that sort of thing. How fun they can be for a rev head like me, right? It's quick, it's fast, and I've got one pedal drive on all the time, so I hardly use the brakes, right?
How does the one pedal drive work?
Basically, as soon as you let off the pedal, funnily enough, like a combustion engine, it starts generating electricity out of the motor instead of using it. So it pumps energy back into your battery, which is obviously efficient and good for you, but it feels like you've just downshifted because the engine starts to brake the car and slow you down rather than using the mechanical brakes.
So the engine brake is recharging your car.
Yep.
It's no brainer, really, isn't it? How about EV fires?
EV fires
happening all the time, left, right, and center.
Yeah. If you believe the news, you know, we've got a bomb parked outside. I think the Department of Defense did a contracted job for the government to kind of investigate what was going on. I can't think of the website right now. It's something simple like evfires.com.au. But they've investigated something like 511 fires, and 1% of those or something were actually from the hardware, from the battery, not caused from a crash or caused from a house fire next door. So the safety aspect is, I guess, not properly mentioned.
So we're going to wrap this up, and after this, you're going to let me have a drive in the Marquee, yeah?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Rhys Clarke, thank you for joining us today to Ascend Your Story.
Thank you very much for having me.
If you like stories about EVs, make sure you check out our episode with Rob Asselman from ChargeFox, Australia's largest EV charging platform, where we talk about the myths of EV charging. Thanks to the Ascent Media team for putting the show together, Jonathan Brown, Michael Nguyen, and Nico Scott. I'm Sam O'Reilly. Ascend Your Story is an Ascent Media production. We tell the stories of amazing people in science, tech, research, and more through video, photography, live streaming, and podcasts like this one. You can see our work and check out all of our other episodes at ascentmedia.com.au.